Hey, my name is Sappy, and I have a deep appreciation for characters that make you feel their presence through the screen, and usually we only take them seriously if they're stronger or smarter than our main character. And almost every piece of media has a villain or a bad guy, but I'm here to talk about the ones that stick out and give off that intimidation. The kind of people that when they show up on screen, makes you say, oh shit. But if you agree or disagree with anything I say, let me know in the comments. And if you liked the video, leaving a like and subscribing would help me out a lot. I like making videos like this, and plan on making a lot more in the future. And starting with one of my favorites, let's talk about Thor. And I'm not talking about Thor from the MCU, I'm talking about the God of War Thor.
I've been waiting for this!
Now, I wish we got more from this guy, but what we saw from him was amazing.
Dumbass! You think you can come here, become a daddy, get a clean slate? That ain't how it works. You're a destroyer, like me.
In God of War 2018, we practically went half of the game hearing stories about how much of a menace Thor is without ever seeing him.
Mother always said the Aesir were the worst of gods, and Thor was the worst of the Aesir.
My mother begged him to leave, and Thor, in his drunken rage, killed her.
Thor, blame me. Me, for what you did to Magni.
Starkather. Wow, that's a lot of arms. It looks like Thor cut him down to size.
It's what he does.
Mimir describes him as a ruthless and all-powerful killer who has an overwhelming hate for giants.
And his father is Thor.
Not minor. Not minor at all, him.
We also learn that he has beef with the World Serpent, a gigantic world-wrapping snake that covers a majority of Midgard.
Why is he doing that?
Odin had that statue made in honor of Thor, and seeing as the world serpent absolutely abhors the fat dauber, he was probably sick of looking at it.
Throughout the first game, we see statues of him and see and hear about the things that he's done, and even an entire level of the game takes place in the corpse of a giant that Thor killed.
Thor killed him. He fell in a village?
Aye. Thor always took credit for planning that one, but truth is the sweaty ballbag just got lucky.
And in the end of the game, when we go to Jotunheim, we see what Thor did, and we see what he's really capable of. We see an endless field of dead giants, all murdered by Thor, and then to top it all off, he shows up at the end of the game to avenge his brother. And at the start of God of War Ragnarok, it picks right back up from that point. He just shows up to their door, and is double Kratos' size, and has this eerie and dreadful demeanor to him that makes him seem almost volatile, not knowing what his next move might be.
You seem like a calm and reasonable person, are you? A calm and reasonable person.
And just the silence that he was bearing was really intimidating, and had me like, we don't know what he's thinking or what he's gonna do, and knowing what he's capable of makes him pretty terrifying. And this feeling only gets deeper as we see him throughout the game. During his fight with Kratos, he's begging for Kratos to show him the power he showed in Greece.
You insult me holding back like this. Let me see the monster inside. Now show me this god killer I've heard so much about!
And is disappointed for Kratos for not fighting harder.
You should be better than this! Show me who you are! This is the god that murdered a pantheon cause they hurt his feelings?
And the way we know Kratos, it's kinda crazy that he's begging him to go back to his roots.
Zeus, your son has returned. I come, seeking the weed of Olympus!
But at the same time, he's standing on his own. And during the fight, he quite literally killed Kratos, which is just crazy to me. And then revived him to continue fighting, which is disrespectfully badass.
I'm not leaving till I see the real you. Get up!
And later on we see Heimdall, who has a really strong power. He can see anybody's movements before they do them, and he knows the future. And we see Thor scare the shit out of him. Considering Heimdall can't really be touched, it shows Thor is on a different level since Heimdall won't dare go against him.
You are a sick man.
And we also see him almost murder Atreus. He definitely lives up to the name of Thor, and is a terrifying villain in general, just because of how powerful he is.
I am done with you and your son.
Another one of my favorites and a more known villain is Sukuna. Sukuna is a straight monster that knows no bounds and just has fun with everything he does. He's an ancient curse that was alive a long time ago and was deemed as the strongest sorcerer alive of his time. He was then revived in the present, inhabiting the body of Yuji. In his time, he was known to have killed all of the world's leaders and single-handedly took down a government of jujitsu sorcerers who opposed him. Anyone who challenges him is seen as an annoyance or a disrespect to him. During his fight with Kashimo, it's made very clear the kind of person Sukuna is. Sukuna has such a reputation that sorcerers only challenge him to validate themselves and be recognized, but nobody ever succeeded. Kashimo, a strong sorcerer that beats a majority of people in this verse, is easily destroyed by Sukuna for that same reason, to validate himself. The first time we see Sukuna, it's after Yuji eats one of his cursed fingers, and the first thing he says is,
武士のように湧いている。素晴らしい王札だ。
He immediately praises how many women and children are in this era and cackles at the fact that he's going to slaughter them all. He's truly nothing but a menace. Later on, when we see him take over Yuji and Shibuya, he makes an absolute mockery of Jogo. The whole reason that Sukuna was able to be resurrected in Shibuya was because of these two girls and because of Jogo feeding him the rest of the fingers. But he finds it offensive that they asked him anything at all, and he kills them both. And Jogo is not weak whatsoever. He's a cursed spirit that our main character stood no chance against. Jogo destroyed Nanami, destroyed Maki, and destroyed Nobito in just seconds. And those three weren't necessarily weak either. But when Sukuna shows up, Jogo bows to him and can't even land one hit on Sukuna to save his life. And while Jogo's going all out, he takes it as an opportunity to go mess with other sorcerers in the area.
これより四方一丁の人間全員、金を破ればもちろん殺す。まだまだ。
Just showing how much he doesn't take the fight seriously. And on top of all of this, Sukuna is just fighting Jogo for fun, flinging him throughout the city and smiling the whole time. And the crazier part is that Sukuna isn't even at his full power just yet. He's still missing a few fingers worth of strength. And the most savage thing about him is his reasoning to everything he does. The unyielding strength he has, and the only reason he put his soul into cursed objects over the years, is to be born into a different era, so he could pass time until he died again. He got bored with his era and decided to go try out another one. And while he was in this era, he made a huge impression on everyone, including the villains as well. Mahito was a big problem for sorcerers, and Sukuna deals with him easily, and even scares Mahito. Jogo was a huge problem, and Sukuna just washed him, and nobody except Gojo could beat Maharaga in a fight, and Sukuna washes Maharaga too. Maharaga can adapt to any attack or anything that's thrown at him, but Sukuna was still able to beat him. He used his domain expansion to beat him, but even then, he nerfed his domain to be smaller so it wouldn't hurt Megumi, meaning that he didn't even go all out with his attack. There's quite literally nothing other than Yuji that suppresses him. The fact that he solos almost everybody in this universe makes him pretty terrifying. The next villain that I want to talk about that I think is pretty terrifying is William Afton, also known as the Purple Guy. He's the main villain in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, and he is a very sick individual who harmed children and put children in harm's way. And what's really interesting is that we don't really see William Afton often, but when we do, he's always doing something terrible. William Afton is the founder of Fredbear's Family Diner, along with his co-worker Henry, and together they made animatronics and opened a restaurant. Business was great for them, but for no real reason other than being deranged and sick, he murdered 5 children one night posing as one of the animatronics he created, and put their bodies into the other animatronics he made to hide them. He never got caught for doing this, but his co-worker Henry knew it was most likely him, so he cut all ties with William, and left the company. And out of rage of him doing that, William killed Henry's daughter as an act of spite and revenge. And this just truly shows us the kind of person William Afton is, and the disregard he has for human life, making him a pretty scary guy. After he did that, he left to create another company called Afton Robotics, where he made robots solely for the purpose of luring in children and killing them. And that in itself is very terrifyingly deranged. And William isn't a person that learns from his mistakes. He had 3 children, and he lost one of them to his own creation, known as the Bite of 83. And this new company he created caused him to lose another one, which was his daughter. He made Circus Baby, an animatronic made to kill children and hide them in the suit, and it did exactly that, but to his own daughter. And he also had a wife, and his wife found out what happened to their daughter, and before his wife could say anything, William Afton killed her and put her soul into an animatronic called Ballora. He couldn't bear that this happened, so he went to the old pizzeria where he killed the children and started to break them apart. But by then, the animatronics were possessed by those children, and lured him into a room where he met a terrible end. But even then, his reign of terror did not stop there. He died in the same costume that he killed the children in, infamously becoming Springtrap. After he became Springtrap, his last remaining child, Michael, dedicated the rest of his life to putting an end to his father's creations, since he lost his sister, brother, and mother to him. Everyone hated William Afton, especially Henry, and Henry was so sick and fed up with what he did that he decided to burn himself along with everything that William created all to the ground.
I have to call them all back, all of them, together in one place.
William Afton was a monster who found pleasure in killing children and dooming everyone around him, and continued haunting everybody for 50+ years, and I think that itself makes him a pretty terrifying villain. And for this next villain I want to talk about, I think everybody in the world knows who Thanos is.
I'm a legend, Thanos.
Not that guy, but we're talking about the big purple guy, Thanos.
Thanos is coming.
The first time we ever saw him was all the way back in Avengers 2012. He's sitting upon a galactic throne and he's being told how humans aren't to be messed with and that they defeated his forces, only for him to turn around and grin, immediately solidifying his presence. The next time we see him is in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, as he's the one pulling the strings of everything happening in that movie pretty much. We see him yet again sitting on a galactic throne, intimidating and instructing Ronan to take one of the Infinity Stones and use it to find the others. Ronan by himself was a huge threat to the galaxy, and he only had one Infinity Stone, and even Ronan feared Thanos.
But return to me again empty-handed, and I will bathe the starways in your blood.
He wanted to betray Thanos, but everyone around him thought it wasn't a good idea, and it ended up backfiring.
You cannot! Thanos is the most powerful being in the universe.
Not anymore.
And because of this, the next time we see him in the post-credit scene for Age of Ultron, we see him equip the Infinity Gauntlet with a smirk, and he iconically says,
"Fine. I'll do it myself."
And the next time we see him, he's quite literally doing it himself. What makes him really scary is how intelligent he is and how battle-hardened he is, and how he's calmly insane. His objective of wiping out half of humanity is quite insane, but he genuinely believes that he's what the universe needs to survive.
Because you murdered half the planet.
A small price to pay for salvation.
You're insane.
If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist.
You don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that.
He's so hell-bent on seeing this through, and the fact that he's equipped and smart enough to do it makes him terrifying. We know we have to take him seriously off that, and it's really solidified in Infinity War. The Hulk, a hero we see give everybody a hard time, and that nobody can really stand against or control, gets beaten by Thanos super easily. His disciples don't intervene, as one says,
"Let him have his fun."
And we see him use technique and strategy and takes down Hulk with ease, beating him up and then slamming him down, really washing a lot of our goats. We haven't really seen anyone other than Thor compete with Hulk and barely win, so Thanos beating both of them shows us he's not a simple threat.
Destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, I am.
And Thanos' promise of destiny being delivered is menacing, really reinforcing the idea that what he thinks he's doing is right, and him actually doing these things makes it so much worse. Infinity War did something that I think was really great, and it was the fact that they made the heroes lose, and it really shows that Thanos was a real threat. And it's hard to not take him serious considering what he's done. He even sacrificed his own daughter to get an Infinity Stone, and also when he arrives on Titan and solos everybody there, quite literally grabs a moon out the sky and throws it at everybody. When he shows up in the end and just solos everybody and takes the Mind Stone and completes what he needs to do, the heroes and the audience both felt the defeat, and it made Thanos such a terrifying villain. Even right in the beginning of Endgame, we still feel the defeat from him, because when they pull up for their revenge, they realize that all the Infinity Stones were destroyed, and there's no reversing what he did, leaving a little bit of trauma with the audience and our heroes. But later on, when a past version of himself realizes that they're trying to undo what he did, he travels into the future to give them a hard-ass time yet again. And here we see a younger, more aggressive Thanos. And even though he lost, he completed his mission, and went on the biggest generational runs of all villain history. There's not too many villains who actually win, so Thanos doing what he did was something new and something great, and it made him a really terrifying villain. The next villain I want to talk about is the Lich. The Lich is a terrifying villain for a kid's show. He's from Adventure Time and his sole purpose is to wipe out life entirely. From a somewhat very lighthearted show where jokes are constantly being made, the Lich is a real counter to that.
Fall.
Princess Bubblegum mentions how he wants to kill everyone and everything, and we later learn that his entire being is solely for that purpose. When we first see him, he's the only villain that Finn finds himself afraid of and powerless against. The Lich has a menacing look for a kid's show, with a menacing voice and a disfigured face. What makes him so scary is his deceitfulness and how subtle he can be with an overwhelming presence. And with his purpose to wipe out humanity, he deceives Finn, Jake, Fiona, and Cake many times. He posed as one of Finn's favorite heroes named Billy, and tasked him with getting the Enchiridion, a tool he needed to wish everyone out of existence. Even when Finn figures him out, he still deceives Finn by having him destroy the Enchiridion right in front of him. His power goes so much deeper than being a spellcaster. He's quite literally an ancient evil. The Lich came from a comet, and that comet harnessed the embodiment of evil, and that embodiment of evil was reincarnated into the Lich. And ever since the Lich came into existence, his only goal has been to wipe out all of humanity, and he nearly succeeded on more than one occasion. He was tasked to do this by one of the gods of the world, named Golb, who is the embodiment of chaos. For a show made for a younger audience, the Lich is constantly reminding Finn and Jake of death, destruction, and calamity, and we see him nearly bring about that destruction multiple times. Whenever the Lich was in an episode, something serious was going down every time, really making the Lich a terrifying villain. And for the last villain, I'll be talking about the Batman Who Laughs. The Batman Who Laughs is probably one of the more terrifying villains on this list. What the Batman Who Laughs is basically a Joker-fied Batman. A Joker that has Batman's intelligence and strength. Just by his design, he looks truly scary. He's draped in all black with a spike crown and a devilishly wide smile. And the things he does are truly horrific. This version of Batman came about after Batman finally lost it. The Joker infected the whole city with Joker toxin, had Batman at his will, and killed the family right in front of him. Joker claimed that he'll never stop doing this, resulting in Batman finally losing it and snapping his neck. But when he did that, a toxin released from his body, infecting Batman and turning him into the Batman Who Laughs. What's terrifying about him is that he's neither Joker or Batman, but he's a hybrid of them who has Batman level intelligence and strength, with extreme murderous intent, and has a new goal to kill everyone and everything. What makes him who he is his overpowered nature, his complexity, and his dreadfully dark demeanor. He is a true embodiment of evil. He starts with the Bat family by summoning them to the Batcave and lying to them and ultimately gunning them down. He also infects them with Joker toxin, turning them into rabid minions who kill and destroy. The Batman Who Laughs breaks every boundary of Batman's morals. He uses guns, knives, and explosives to start laying waste to everything. His next targets were the Justice League, and what makes him terrifying is that he succeeds in killing all of them, and he brung Superman to his knees. And what makes it even worse is his reasoning. It's simply because he wants to. He corrupts Superman's family in front of him, hurting his son and wife, and brutally killing each member of the Justice League. He pretty much succeeded in ending the world in the worst way possible. This story involves a multiverse with multiple Batmans, so another version of Bruce Wayne has to put a stop to the Batman Who Laughs, and it was his most grueling and hardest challenge he ever faced. He's pretty much fighting a more dangerous and lethal version of himself. Batman has to quite literally become the Batman Who Laughs in order to even take him down. The destruction the Batman Who Laughs brung, the horrific things he did, and the trauma it gave Bruce Wayne to defeat him solidifies him as one of the most terrifying villains out there. He is pure evil. But that brings us to the end of this video. If you stuck around this long, then I want to thank you so much for watching. There's a lot of villains out there, but I feel like these are the ones that really stuck out to me personally. And if you think anybody else should have been added to this list, just let me know in the comments, and why you think they're a terrifying villain. But thanks again so much for watching, and liking and subscribing would help me out so much. I plan on making a lot more videos that are kind of like this one, as I try to find out what kind of content I really enjoy making. So I appreciate all the support, and thanks again for watching.